All right, y'all, if you're watching this is the last episode of historical markers in Randolph County. I told you there was a lot, but believe it or not, there are counties that have even more. So it's been fascinating so far, but I know that you're going to find the rest of these markers is just as fascinating as the others. So stay tuned and go along with us as we look at the rest of the historical markers in Randolph County. We're here outside of Modoc, Illinois, and we are here at the grave of Dr. George Fisher. Dr. George Fisher, early Illinois physician, served as sheriff of Randolph County, member of the First House of Representatives of Indiana Territory, Speaker of the House in the First and Third Illinois Territorial Assemblies, 1812 to 1814 and 1816 to 1818, a member of the First Illinois Constitutional Convention in 1818. His body lies here. All right, we are here at the lot where the lock and dams are on the Kaskaskia River. There's a campground here. It's pretty cool. And here is the marker we're looking for, where the rivers meet. It says lots of stuff, but I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. The confluence of the Kaskaskia and Mississippi rivers wasn't always located here. Before 1881, the Kaskaskia flowed into the Mississippi about 7 miles downstream near where Chester, Illinois is located today. In 1881, flooding and ice dams redirected the Mississippi, pushing the confluence to its current location. America's great rivers have always been highways. The region's earliest vessels were dug out in birch bark canoes used by Native Americans. Colonial settlers bought log rafts, flatbeds, and keelboats. The first steamboat on the Mississippi arrived in 1817, and for a brief period starting in 1837, steamboats served the Kaskaskia River too. Today, modern towboats push large groups of barges moving tons of cargo on navigable rivers. Here's the going through the locked chamber on their way to the Mississippi. So here it says, welcome to the Kaskaskia River Confluence Trail and Heritage Area, where the Kaskaskia River meets the Mississippi River in Randolph County, Illinois. And we're right here. So here's the lock and dam, and there's a trail where you can go right up here to where there's an amphitheater and fire ring, and they give presentations. And so that's really, really cool. And if you want to go by car, there's an auto tour route here. And then through time, it talks about all of the different things from the Illini tribes that were here to the French, and we've gone there. We've talked about the Revolutionary War, or the British came and took control, and then in the Revolutionary War, George Rogers Clark and his men. Then we've talked about Meriwether Lewis and all of these things. There's the change that happened in 1881. So here's where the river changed course, and the original Kaskaskia mouth was here. I'm sorry, here's where the river changed course, and the original was here near Chester, and this used to be the way it was. So yeah, we talked about a lot of these things. The flood in 1993. So here it talks about the flood in 1881 that changed the course of the river. So there's George Rogers Clark and his men, and the Pierre Menard home. And we're at Fort de Chartres. Somebody's going to write me nasty things about all of these French names that I can't pronounce. But it's just the way it is. I'm just a hick from Southern Illinois. People, I barely speak English. So here we are. This has been where the rivers meet, the Kaskaskia and the Mississippi. And it looks like just a beautiful area to be. If you ever have a camper and want to come this direction, it looks like a nice little campground. It doesn't have full hookups, but it does have electric at the sites, so that's pretty cool. We are here between Modoc and Prairie de Rocher, Illinois, where this bluff is. All of those birds' nests built in there. But this is what we're looking for. This is the Modoc Rock Shelter. Says the layered sediments at the base of this bluff preserve a record of repeated use of 2 rock shelters by Native American groups from 9,000 to 4,000 years ago. The earliest groups camped here for short periods of time. By 8,000 years ago, some groups lived here for longer periods. Their tools, structures, such as pits and hearths, and food refuse suggest the wider range of activities associated with the base camp. Around 4,000 years ago, groups used the shelters for more specialized hunting camps associated with base camps located elsewhere. Research for this locality documents important cultural and environmental changes. And here's some more information about this, about the excavations that were done, the archaeological excavations that were done under here. It says the shelter has a long history of archaeological research. Archaeologists from the Illinois State Museum and the University of Chicago excavated here in the 1950s. The museum and the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee returned to carry out additional work in the 1980s. Modoc Rock Shelter is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it is a National Historic Landmark. It does have the plaque up there designating it as a historical landmark. Sign talking about the different periods that it was used and by which different culture was dominant in the area. Very, very cool. I would have never known about this. Absolutely. We're here in Prairie duRocher at what is known as the Creole House. And that would be this building here, right on the main road. Has this awesome iron fence around it. I'm going to go in here so we can see the marker. It says the Creole House, circa 1800, restored by RCHS. This site placed on the National Register of Historic Places, 1973. We're here in front of the Prairie duRocher Village Hall, Post Office, Volunteer Fire Department, a little bit of everything. And we're going for this marker right here that says Prairie duRocher, Illinois, established in 1722, oldest town in Illinois. A stranger entering the quaint village of Prairie duRocher from the east perceives, while yet descending the steep hill leading to the great American bottom, the quiet, undisturbed beauty of the community. With quiet fortitude, we have tenaciously clung to our heritage at the foot of these bluffs since 1722, establishing us as the oldest town in Illinois. Perhaps this will be our only role in history. Perhaps this our only claim to fame. Our yet untold history is in our children and their children's children. Our future is their future. We're here in Prairie de Rocher for their Veterans Memorial marker that they have here. It is in dedication, honor, and memory of those from our community who so valiantly served our country. They gave their today for our tomorrow. And it lists veterans from World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Persian Gulf of community members that gave their lives. We are here in Prairie de Rocher, or depending on where you're from, duRocher. This is the German World War I 15 cm Krupp field gun and barrel carrier. There are only 2 of these in existence. Sorry about the noise. That was the train going by. We are right by the railroad tracks. German World War I field gun. That's that. And then the barrel carrier is that piece back there. And this is here at the American Legion in Prairie de Rocher. And we're still here outside the American Legion in Prairie de Rocher. And our next marker is for this German World War I 1913 Howitzer. It had a range of 9,296 yards. So there's that gun. So all of this is here outside the American Legion in Prairie de Rocher. Here's the sign talking about the Heritage Wheat Revival and that why it was planted in French colonial wheat history. And they had a plot, so I would imagine it's inside that red box. And it's actual heritage wheat. It's the heritage wheat variety cultivated very early by the French in the Illinois country. And we have chosen the heritage wheat variety of Rue de Bordeaux, a famous French wheat variety from 18th century French colonial history, to be planted in our wheat plot. So that's what's there in that plot. We are here between Prairie de Rocher and Fort de Chartres at this site, which is called the Calvary. And we're here for this marker. It says, Christ was crucified between 2 thieves on a small hill called Golgotha. The name signifies place of the skull in Hebrew, and in Latin, Calvary locus. In French, the word Calvary was used to designate the hill. In Europe, 3 crosses were placed on a small rise and called Calvary. Calvaries were put along roads as a place for prayer. In the 18th century, a Calvary was located somewhere along the King's Road. The old King's Road was located on the Field Road to the right. On the 14th of September, the Feast of Exaltation of the Holy Cross, a procession came from the parish church of St. Anne to the Calvary. The Calvary reminds us of the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ. So that's pretty cool. So these sites were built, and the French built them, and they called them, I guess it was probably pronounced Calvaire, maybe, but the Calvary. I think that's a pretty good name. We're here at this marker outside of Prairie de Rocher. I cannot get you any closer, however, because there's a big mud puddle in between me and the marker, and I'm not wearing my mud boots today. So here you go. This is Pierre Laclede at Chartres. Pierre Laclede and his business partners purchased a house here at the eastern edge of the village of Chartres in 1763. Laclede wintered in the house as he planned the new village of St. Louis, which he established in 1764. The house was later owned by a British officer and was abandoned around 1770. It was rediscovered as an archaeological site in 1998. And there's the archaeological footprint of the post-in-earth house. You can zoom in and take a look at that. Okay, I can't get you any closer to this sign because of the ditch, but it says it's for St. Anne's Church. In 1721, a chapel to St. Anne was built outside the first Fort de Chartres near the river. In 1731, the villagers of Chartres constructed in this vicinity a church of posts on sill measuring 50 by 30 feet. The parish included St. Joseph Chapel at Prairie duRocher and a chapel called the Visitation at St. Philippe. After the abandonment of the village of Chartres, St. Joseph Chapel became the parish church. And the fort is right over there, and we're headed that way. All right, we are here at Fort de Chartres, and our first marker is right here. See if this sounds familiar. Lewis and Clark in Illinois. On December 4th, 1803, William Clark and several recruits passed by this place on their expedition west. In his journal, Clark noted the stone ruins of Fort de Chartres. The party continued on to pick up supplies and then meet Meriwether Lewis in Cahokia. All right, this marker says, "Welcome to Fort de Chartres State Historic Site. Before you stands the partially reconstructed Fort de Chartres built by the French government between 1753 and 1755. The stone fort replaced earlier wooden forts by the same name. From 1720 to 1763, these forts served France as the military, economic, and governmental center of the Illinois country, which was part of the Louisiana colony. Most of France's possessions in North America, including Fort de Chartres, were passed on to Great Britain in 1763 with the Treaty of Paris, which brought an end to the French and Indian War. British troops occupied the fort on October 10, 1765, renaming it Fort Cavendish. The fort was abandoned around 1771 as the Mississippi River's channel moved ever closer, ending the fort's use as a military post. Our next marker is right here, and it is Fort de Chartres in the Illinois country. It says this drawing shows Fort de Chartres as it looked during the last years it was controlled by France. The 15-foot walls enclosed an open parade ground and a number of buildings, including barracks for the troop, housing for the officers, and a chapel, a bakery, a storehouse, and a powder magazine for storing ammunition. The main gate opened on to the Mississippi River, while the back gate faced the bluffs. So we're right here, and there's the back gate that we're going to go in. And you can see the different corners here. And then the main gate led out to the river. I am really bad with this, I'm sorry. So there's the main gate. It goes out to the river. We're here in the entry into the fort, into the parade grounds. And our marker is right here. It's Fort de Chartres, seat of civil and military government in the Illinois country for half a century, was first completed in 1720. In 1753 to 56, it was rebuilt of stone at a cost of $200,000 Leveris, I don't know what that is, and became one of the strongest forts in North America, and the key to the French defenses in what is now the United States. By the Treaty of Paris, 1763, France ceded the greater part of her North American possessions to Great Britain, but Fort de Chartres, the last post to be surrendered, was occupied by a French garrison until 1765. Renamed Fort Cavendish, the fort was the seat of British government in the Illinois country until 1772, when it was abandoned and destroyed. The state of Illinois purchased the site of Fort de Chartres and made it a state park in 1913. I want to show you just how bad this French thing is for me. Thank goodness when we walked in here and we're looking for the marker that I saw this one first. This one I read to you. It's perfect. If I had looked over here first, dun da da, it's in French. I would have been horrified to try to read that to you. I'm not even gonna try. But there you go. If you read French, zoom in, pause, zoom in, and read that. But thank goodness I didn't see this one first. All right, you guys, that finishes up Randolph County historical markers. I hope you've had as much fun as we have. It was just fantastic for us. So stay tuned for the next county. A lot more to see out there and a lot to learn about the areas around us in this great country of ours. And we're gonna branch out. We have decided on this series that we are going to branch out to some of our neighboring states that we are close to and do some in other states besides Illinois. So we decided that it's a historical marker series, not just an historical marker in Illinois. So I'm excited about that, learning the history of other areas that we live close to. I think that's fascinating. So stay tuned. Ignore the the gunfire. That's at a gun club near me. But stay tuned for the rest of historical markers as we proceed.